Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Combining Sound and Breath for Nervous System Regulation. Restore balance and mental health with next level sound healing practices. My name is Stephen Dynam. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really blessed to be with you here because I know there are so many of us who are really struggling to keep centered, grounded, open in the midst of a lot of collective tumult, stress, and change out there. It's an intense time. And what we've learned at Shift is that we need practices to help us through. And one of the most important practices has to do with sound because we entrain with sound. And we're going to get to explore how we can use sound and breath together to harmonize our nervous system and to really be in that centered, open-hearted place that out of which magic comes with one of the true pioneers in the field. His name is Joshua Leeds. He's a music producer, sound researcher, and educator, and he's really devoted decades to exploring the science of sound and how it can benefit you. So Joshua, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm so glad to be here.
Great. Well, I want to share right up front, we're going to have this time. We're going to get some valuable practices, insights from Joshua, and we have a brand new course with him that we're very excited about. It's called Sound Work and Breath for Nervous System Regulation that we're going to share more about towards the end of the hour if you want to go further and really make this a part of your daily life. So Joshua, I'd love for us to begin with our time here with a bit of your journey into sound and breath to regulate the nervous system. Like what really propelled you on this path?
Well, Stephen, I've been in this field for about 40 years, exactly 40 years actually, a long time. And I have evolved into what I consider to be a sonic activist. And what that really means is I'm looking for where's the relevancy of particularly sound, which happens to be where I've devoted my entire professional life. How can sound work serve where we are at this time? And you've just opened it up in such a wonderful way. You summarized it. This is a fairly stressful time that we're living in. And as I began to look at the use of sound, I became more and more aware that one of the things that was calling for a remedy was actually anxiety, that loneliness and anxiety was running rampant in our culture. And I see no indications that it's going to be anything less in the future. And so I began to think and to research what it was and how it was that sound could be used as a remedy for people who are feeling out of balance. And so that's how we come here today with the concept of sound and breath for nervous system regulation.
Hmm. Well, I'd love to dive into the science of this since I know you have a lot of expertise in that in this area and really understand from a nervous system perspective, like how is it that sound can have such a profound ability to shift our state and shift our whole center of gravity?
Well, what I found is that this brought me into the exploration of sound and breath. And what I came to realize was that really it's about the vagal nerve, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the most important nerves in our body. It's the 10th cranial nerve, comes out of the back of the brain stem, and it travels down and connects to almost all of our organs in our torso. And the vagal nerve is definitely tied into the parasympathetic nervous system. And so, in order to be able to get the sympathetic nervous system into a place of balance with the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our goal, then the parasympathetic nervous system needs a bit of help, a bit of assistance these days for people who are deep into an anxiety or chronic stress or trauma state. And so it's about how do we activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And what I discovered is it's all tied in with the stimulation of the vagal nerve. And how do we stimulate the vagal nerve? Through breath. And how do we give a structure for breath? It's with tone. And so that's kind of the pecking order. That what I discovered in this is that there's a big deal about the nervous system being thrown off balance. And it's the autonomic nervous system that goes haywire. When I think about the autonomic nervous system, we have 8 different divisions of our nervous system. Our nervous system, most amazing communication highway of the body. It's all about information to and from central headquarters here, the brain. And it's all about how this information goes out. And the autonomic nervous system is about basically the automatic functions that are going on. So it allows us to go to sleep at night. We don't have to wake up and go, oh gosh, I'm not breathing. Or I don't have to worry about whether or not my liver is secreting the right hormones, or what the communication is between everything that somehow works together. I know when I reach out, if I were to shake your hand, Stephen, then I think at first and then I reach out with my hand. But the autonomic nervous system is about all the stuff that we don't have to think about getting done, but it just gets done on its own. And so when we have a lot of anxiety and we have a lot of stress or we have a lot of trauma, then the net effect of that is we basically overamp the sympathetic nervous system, which is one part of the autonomic nervous system. And when the sympathetic nervous system gets bent out of shape, then it just gets basically stuck on into a fight or flight mode. And what I have come to understand is the best way in garden variety anxiety, the best way to be able to re-find a balance is by basically stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system that then goes to work again in working to find balance with a sympathetic overdrive, where the sympathetic nervous system is just literally overdriven. It's like where all of our adrenals are weird, and all kinds of physical symptoms take place because we're stuck in fight or flight, which is good when we need it, but is only supposed to be used a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not into the other side of it, which is rest and digest, which is what the parasympathetic nervous system is about.
Mm.
So the way for us to be able to basically get in there and start to energize both systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic, is through the stimulation of the vagus nerve. And the stimulation of the vagus nerve takes place through the breath, and takes place even more when we add humming to the equation. And the reason why we're adding humming is because we're breathing through our nose. I have a friend who is in this field, and she says we digest air through the nose and we digest food through the mouth. And it became a really easy paradigm for me to think about this and to just go, oh, so we're going to be really getting solid into nasal breathing. And essentially, Stephen, what we're doing here is an age-old function with a high technology name. It's called biohacking.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not hacking anything. We're just taking advantage of the information that we have now that allows us to understand how to use our physiological systems that have evolved over millions of years. How do we use them in a way that helps us here in the 21st century? What can we do that tweaks it up, that refines it a little bit? And it ends up that there are a lot of people that are looking at, of all of our different body systems, they're looking at the respiratory system. And so there are those people that are looking at the respiratory system and how we can breathe to be able to enhance clarity. And there are other people that are looking at the respiratory system in terms of, well, how can we breathe to enhance athletic performance? Well, I happen to be coming along at a time, and there are not a lot of people that are doing this work that are looking at this and saying, how can we use which system, and it ends up the respiratory system is the one, how can we use breath to be able to enhance the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system to find balance?
Really a great overview of the calling. I think it's worth noting that it's also the nature of modern technology that just pushes us into sympathetic overstimulation and arousal. I mean, we've got social media, we've got so much more stimulus than our ancestors ever did, and a lot of it is there's an incentive for it to be agitating. It's sort of our threat, our perceived threat. We want to sort of get engaged and get more. So there's all these forces that are pushing us towards more and more sympathetic arousal. So what you're talking about is more and more necessary with every passing year, regardless of what's happening, it's like there are forces that are pushing for more sympathetic arousal. So we need to get more skilled. So let's talk a little, you talked a little bit more about the respiratory system and breath, but why is sound so important to you to be part of this equation as well in terms of like resetting from the overdrive and sympathetic back into parasympathetic?
Yeah, parasympathetic being rest and digest, which is if we're going to be in one place or the other, we should really be there as opposed to fight or flight. When we get stuck in fight or flight, when we're in sympathetic overdrive, then we're using a function that was designed for when we were on the savannah and we saw something way off in the distance and we went, I got to get out of here. And it causes all the biological systems to basically prep us for survival. And then that gets stuck. And so what I've been able to do is to actually refine the question of how can we multiply or redirect sophisticated functions to serve the 21st century human. And so it's not just about the political or cultural aspects of where we are, or I should say it's every bit as much about the cultural influences that we're looking at where we're always bombarded. We're different in the 21st century. 21st century is a different time. We're in a different era on all levels. So I mean, we know the entire physical body, millions of years of evolution. We're not going to have the audacity to say that we're going to up that. But what we are going to do is we're going to say, you know what? There are ways that we can do little things that will be able to refine what we're doing. Case in point, before we started this hour, Stephen said to me, "Okay, I want to meditate for 30 seconds, and then we'll go ahead and start." And so we're each in our little Zoom rooms, and I watched Stephen just close his eyes, and basically he was refining his nervous system. He was calming himself down so that he would have the optimal level of focus to be able to just come right out and go, well, here we are, which he did. And so meditation is a form of refining our physiological systems. And what I have perhaps stumbled into is that there are ways for us to continue to refine our systems for where we are now. And where we are now is we're in the 21st century, and it's a different deal.
Mm-hmm. Great points. Well, let's talk about what you've discovered about that refinement, because it's all about these like moments of optimization every day that can keep us in the zone where we're centered and calm and able to manage versus like feeling stressed out and overwhelmed.
Yes, optimization. So there's the process of getting us back to zero, and there's also the process of how is it that we can actually work at a finer degree, a higher degree of specificity in the direction of our energy without burning out our physical bodies. So while I've been working on this, I realized that with sound and breath tied in the way that they are, in other words, we can't make a sound without breath. I mean, I can bang on something, but if I'm not breathing, I'm going to fall down. But we can't manufacture a sound without breath. And the truth is that we can't actually breathe. We can breathe without making a sound. Like Stephen is sitting there patiently right now, and he's breathing, and he's not making a sound that we can hear. But that doesn't mean that sounds are not being made. We're not talking about how our auditory is tweaked. Inside of his body, there are all kinds of sounds that are going on. And so the bottom line of what I'm saying is that it's really a yin yang thing. Sound and breath, they go together. They go hand in hand with each other. And so if we look at the pecking order of this thing, what we're looking to do is to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And the best way to do that is with breath. And the best way for us to have long breath, which is even better than short breath, is if we use sound. And Stephen asked me a question just a little bit back that I want to swoop in on, which is about, well, why does sound make a difference? Well, this is really an interesting thing to be able to get real simple and to be okay with simple. Sound does three different things in relationship to nervous system regulation, or in deference to even emotional regulation. What it does is by breathing through the nose, we actually create 15 times more. That's a little factoid, isn't it? 15 times more nitric oxide molecules. And these molecules are very important for all kinds of things that I don't have time to go into in this presentation right now. But they're good. They're good guys. And we want as many nitric oxide molecules as we can get. And by breathing through the nose in and out, then that happens. The second thing is by us making a sound, I'm vibrating right here in my larynx. And the larynx and the throat are one of the places where the vagal nerve attaches. And so I am putting some gasoline in the vagal nerve tank, so to speak. I am stimulating the vagal nerve just by the use of my larynx. And then the third thing is that it has an effect on the release of cortisol. It calms us down. We put out less cortisol, and the list goes on and on. And so the most important thing actually is that sound, and this goes around to what I was talking about before in the relationship of sound and breath. Sound gives breath structure. So when we breathe, I realized that probably the way that I breathe and the way that you breathe is different. It's really a snapshot of our psychological relationship to the world. I mean, the best breath we can do is kind of a Buddha breath, where we breathe deep in, we let our stomach just get all fat and flabby and hang out over our belts, and we breathe deep down into our diaphragm. And it really fills up our entire torso with breath. And we want a long exhale. And not only do we want a long exhale, but we also want to have a longer exhale than an inhale. And so if we go to breathe in, let's say in a ratio of 1 to 2, where we breathe in and then we breathe out twice as long as we breathe in, it's going to be even better because we're using the breath. When we breathe in, we're stimulating this sympathetic nervous system. When we breathe out, we're sympathetic. We're actually stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. And so a long breath really serves. And to have a long breath, lots of times, a good solid tone is like the platform that the breath then just kind of rides on. So if I go, or if I go, I have a much longer breath.
Hmm.
And so the sound, that's why we're humming. We're humming because the lips are closed. We can't go, I mean, it's the same thing. We have a long breath if we were to tone and go, ah, or oh. We have breath control, especially those of us who've been chanting for a long time or toning for a long time. And so what I figured out is that because everybody breathes differently, that the best thing that I could do was to give all the background information about, well, what are the elements that we have? Why do we use nasal breathing? Why do we use slow breathing? Why do we use humming? Why do we use movement? Why do we use rhythm? That the best thing I could do was to actually create a little toolkit for everybody, that they could then adapt these exercises for their own individual usage. Because the way that I breathe and my relationship to the outdoors and my relationship to the world around us is different than the way that Stephen does, and is different than the way that anybody else does. So consequently, we have within this work something called the Sound Breath Toolkit. And included in that, I've got 4 different exercises that I've created. They're still being created, actually, but they all rest upon the principles of how do we basically use sound and breath to stimulate the vagal nerve, to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, to find equilibrium with the sympathetic nervous system.
Super helpful. I want to ask about this the humming aspect and the toning. Are there certain notes or patterns that are better for that use? So the length obviously sounded important. Are there other dimensions of that toning that creates the kind of maximum benefit?
That's a great question. And you know what I want? I like all of this. I've been involved in this field for a long time, and it really is all about the art and the science of it. And I'm hoping that people will pick it up, stand on my shoulders, and that they'll take it even further. But at this point, in direct answer to your question, I don't know that there's any difference in terms of it's an A, an O, a Z, a Q, an M, an R, whatever. I just go, when I go to hum, I just go, and then it's really the question is, do I have my teeth closed? Am I actually vibrating all of my jaw? Is that better or is that worse? Or do I actually have my teeth a little bit open? I have found that there's kind of like a light hum and there's a heavier hum. Try it with me, Stephen. Just
Okay.
a mm, and look at the difference now. Close your teeth together and try it. Mm. There's a whole different level of vibration that's going on as he knocks his glasses off. There's a whole different level of vibration that's going on in the whole cranium. Is that better? Is it worse? I don't know. Maybe in a year or in 2 years or 5 or 10 years, somebody will come up and say, hey, you know what we figured out? When you're going to hum, then do it this way. And maybe that will make it even better. But at this point, I think that it really comes down to personal preference. I think that the whole adaptation of these considerations and processes really comes down to individual adaptation.
Hmm. It's great that there's that ability to customize based upon what we perceive works.
Yeah.
I know. I want to know. You have a particular practice that we wanted to go deeper into today around vagal flossing. You want to share a little bit about more about what that is and how we can
Yeah.
use
Yeah, you bet. Well, well, I call it. It's like, we do something every day. Like we can't stand going to the dentist. Like, do you know anybody who would like and goes, "Hey, I'm so excited. I'm going to the dentist today." Like people generally are not so excited about going to the dentist, but they have a daily practice because they don't want to go to the dentist. It's called dental floss. And we kind of do it because we just know that if we do that, we don't have to go to the dentist. Well, I've been looking into the concept of stress resilience. Interesting field. It's really about how do we train? It's the same thing, 21st century human. How do we train the 21st century human to have a stressful event and come right back, as opposed to a stressful event that knocks us down? How do we become more resilient with our stress that comes our way? And that's really what the field of stress resilience is about. And that's part of what's built into these exercises autonomically built into these exercises that I've created. It's with the idea that you could use this exercise for a minute, for 5 minutes a day. And in the same way as you floss your teeth, that maybe you just get into just going, you know what, this is a good thing for me to be doing. It's like Stephen, you've got your grab bag of tools that you've learned that help you to be the best human being that you can. And what I'm suggesting is that basically everybody does. They've got their own toolkit. And so maybe this is about adding something to the toolkit.
hmm hmm Great. Well, you want to go deeper into that vagal flossing as an addition to the
Yeah, let's go
toolkit?
ahead and let's do that. So I'm going to do, so what the first exercise is a seated breath and sound exercise. And I'm going to do that with you where you're already sitting down there. Okay. And I'm going to invite you to just start breathing and through your nose. So keep your mouth shut and just remember the nose. Okay. We digest food through the mouth. And when we're doing breathing exercises, it's all through the nose. So just start with an easy in and an easy out. And I'm going to talk for a little bit. I'm going to talk about why certain things are important. So while you're sitting there and you're just breathing in and out just through your nose, Let's talk a little bit about nasal breathing. We know that nasal breathing stimulates the vagal nerve. That's one of our goals. We also know that it creates a lot of nitric oxide, and we know that that's a really good thing. But now, while we're breathing in and out of our nose, then at the same time, let's start working with some breath ratios and understand there are many different kinds of breath ratios. But the one that we're going to be working with is a 1 to 2. And so, Stephen, I'm going to ask you to breathe in to the count of 4 and to exhale double that to the count of 8. So we would just go in, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So anybody else who's sitting out there in the audience who's watching this, just sit down and do it with me. Let's just see what happens, okay? All right. So again, just sit comfortable and just start to breathe. And remember, keep your mouth shut, and we're going to breathe out of your nose, okay? All right. And so we're going to breathe in 4 and we're going to breathe out 8. And so let's just do that for just a little bit. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I want you to keep doing that. And I'm going to talk a little bit while you're doing that. Now you can feel that this is automatically starting to calm you down. This is automatically bringing your nervous system into a much slower state. We're dealing with the mix of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. And we're also dealing with the ways that we can be stimulating different parts of the autonomic nervous system. You can see by looking at Stephen. He's a relaxed guy there. Okay. Inhale in for 4. Exhale out for 8. There's no right, there's no wrong here. Okay. Now, why are we doing this breath ratio of 1 to 2? It's because this is the best that activates the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. And that there are all kinds of different breath ratios where we breathe in the same amount and we exhale the same amount. Or we do an extended exhale for relaxation. Or we do different variations through that are developed through time and purpose for multiple inhales and different kinds of holds between the inhales and the exhalations. But for our purposes, we're going to keep it really simple. We're just inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, to this exercise, while you're continuing to do this, every time that you exhale, keep doing the exercise. Every time that you exhale, add a hum. It's as simple as that. And we have just doubled the power of what it is that we're doing in terms of the impact on the vagal nerve. Whether or not it's totally doubled or more or less, I don't know that. But what I do know is that we have just made it even more extensive and in-depth. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale and hum, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale and hum, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale. So isn't that great? We just like breathed the entire shift network into a state of perfect parasympathetic nervous system calm. We're back. And it was perfect timing because I was just about to take us out of that. So, what we just have seen is what happens when we combine sound and breath. That's all we were doing,
Hmm.
just sound and breath. In the toolkit, the exercises that we're going to be teaching add on to that movement, rhythm, and circadian advantage.
Hmm.
By that, what I mean is that there are certain circadian rhythms that we have. And it will allow us to be able to. I've created an exercise that is done at a certain time of night, that is to be done, an hour before you go to bed for a certain amount of time, that is taking advantage of physiological things that are already going on in the nervous system. So in actuality, what we're doing is we're just refining our use of different body systems.
Hmm.
So, Stephen, I have a movement exercise, a Tai Chi movement exercise, and I don't know whether or not I used up too much time.
No, let's jump into it. But first, I want to say one thing that was just kind of interesting to me. I hadn't really ever thought about the 1 to 2 ratio before, but I was thinking of it almost like deposits in the each nervous system. It's like, oh, when the longer exhale is like putting a bigger deposit in the parasympathetic in a way.
That's exactly right. Like there's this guy over in Scandinavia. His name is Wim Hof, and he's a big guy in the use of breath, but using cold as well as a way of activating, reactivating different parts of the nervous system to have a specific effect, mostly for athletes.
Hmm.
And
Fascinating.
he has people get and immerse themselves in freezing cold water. Now, that's not my bag. I'd rather do it through the breath, but everybody's built different and everybody's got a different deal.
Mhm.
But the question that I was asking you, kind sir, is there time for me to also take 5 or 6 minutes and
Yes.
show? Yeah, great.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Okay. So the second exercise that we're going to do, see my hands, the tip of my hands, and that you can also see the tip. No, you can't. It gets cut off. Let me just pull this back just a little bit, and let me step back a little bit further. Okay, so you can see the tip of my hands, and you can see where my hands are coming together here. And let me just pull this down just a hair more. Okay, all right, here we go. So up and down. So what I'm going to demonstrate, and Stephen, can you hear me okay? Okay, all right. So this is an example of adding movement to the breath and adding sound, humming, to the breath, and having now three elements that are working together because we've added movement, whereas before we had breath and sound. Now we're going to add movement to it. And the Tai Chi exercise that we're going to use goes like this. It's a series of 8 very simple movements: knees bent, arms up to shoulder length, out to the side, up over the head, back of the hands touch and come down, right over the head. Nice and slow and easy, no wrong moves. In, hands connect, and turn towards the throat. And then take that good juju, all that good energy, and just scatter, just put it down on the body, just like that. And so this is now the exercise, one of the exercises that we're going to go ahead and use, that we're going to add by, and we're using the exercise to add movement into the mix, because anything that helps with down regulation is our friend. And so Stephen is doing this movement from a seated position, which people can do as well. I just happen to be doing it standing. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to add breath. But the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to stop for the first movement and just breathe. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale out of the nose, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now I'm going to add humming. 3, 4 with my exhale.
Mm.
The same as we did with the sitting exercise. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale and hum, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale and hum.
Wow. Well, thank you, Joshua. I really felt the harmonization happening, and I have not tried that with combining the voice and the humming in that way. So beautiful. I wonder if you could just share a little bit more. I know that you're calling this vagal flossing. Like, what's behind the term vagal flossing, and give us a little more insight there.
Yeah, you bet, Stephen. Um, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to go to the dentist, and so we floss. And so we don't really want to be going to the doctor, and so we do these exercises to keep our health together. And one of the points that I want to keep on going back to is this concept of being a 21st century human. And we're living in this world with so much more stress and anxiety and depression and pressure. And so these exercises in the toolkit are all about basically being able to set up what works for you because you're different than I am, than Stephen is. And so you can do it with these exercises. But what I want to stress is that I'm going to teach 4 exercises. There are going to be many more exercises that are going to be available as this concept continues to develop. And it's a developing concept. It's really about how do we refine and how do we use sound and breath. And then as long as we're doing that, let's add movement and let's add rhythm and let's add circadian advantage. And I'm sure we'll be adding all kinds of other things as we continue to develop this concept of how do we refine ourselves? Do we refine this exquisite human form that we've been given to be able to help us deal with the 21st century?
Well, I think it's a noble mission to help give us new skills to deal with the 21st century, and it's clearly grounded in very frontier science. And I love these toolkit that you've assembled. So let's talk more explicitly about your upcoming course, because it's really going to be the best way for people to learn everything that you have developed and apply it in their lives. And so we're very blessed that Joshua has agreed to teach a brand new course for Shift. It's called Sound Work and Breath for Nervous System Regulation, a sound breath toolkit to restore balance and elevate your mental health and physical well-being. It really couldn't be more perfectly timed. You can find more details on it at harmonizeyournervoussystem.com, harmonizeyournervoussystem.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites. You don't have to have any background or expertise. It's really just if you recognize that you could benefit. And so I think virtually everybody can. So Joshua, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for this program and what people will come away with. And then we'll go on a tour of the modules for what you're going to be teaching.
You bet. As I've been developing this, what has occurred to me is that there are many people that will profit from this, that they, in their gaining of knowledge and information, they'll be able to use it. They'll be in their own toolkits. And by the way, the toolkits are not just about exercises, they're about the theories that are behind them. They're practical, they're theoretical, they're grounded in science, as Stephen said, and they're fun. we're going to also have fun. We're going to make sure we're going to have fun. We're going to practice these exercises, and we're going to be talking about what it is that takes place with the breath, and why are we focusing on the respiratory system, and what it is that we can do to help, not help because it's doing just fine, but what can we do to help ourselves in a way to help us deal with life in general these days. And so, as I present this and bring this forward, I also want to say the nervous system is a complex animal. And we're just beginning to touch the surface of this. There are some people who have got serious nervous system conditions. This course is not designed for people who need to be seeing medical specialists. This course is designed for sound workers who want to expand how it is that they use sound in relationship to the physical body. It's for breath workers who want to understand how to use sound along with their knowledge of the breath. It's for the therapeutic professionals who are treating anxiety or depression and who want to find a way to be able to use these different tools that we're bringing in the guise of being sound workers into their practice. And of course, it's for people who are feeling the effects of being in the 21st century and want to learn some easy tools, simple tools that they can adapt and that they can look at as a starting place for what it is that they need to do in order to be able to put together a lifestyle that is in balance.
Beautiful. So module 1 is called Building Your Sound Breath Toolkit, Foundational Techniques for Nervous System Harmony.
Yeah, what that's really about is what we've been talking about, is how do we take the theoretical and make it simple, simpler. This is not a simple class. This is a complex concept of just dealing with the nervous system to begin with. But my goal, if I've done my job right, is to be able to simplify it and to be able to say things and put it into a context where you'll just remember, oh, the nose knows. This is the reason why I breathe out of my nose. Oh, yes, the automatic nervous system. We know it's really the autonomic nervous system, but to think about it in terms of the automatic functions. And so I've done a lot of the heavy lifting, and then I'm going to take what it is that I've gleaned and pass it on to you.
Module 2, 21st Century Sound Work, the role of technology in advancing neuroscience and sound healing techniques.
You know, Stephen, this is one of my favorites. I'm so delighted to have had the opportunity to do a deep dive into where sound work is now. I came into this field in 1985, and at that time, people were working with binaural beat frequencies and thinking a lot about entrainment and rhythm and pattern identification and tone and resonance. And now, with the advent of AI, of which I'm a great proponent of using it as a research tool and also for understanding quickly all the different possibilities of the way that things can be applied. Sound work in the day and age of AI is a whole different bag. And so we're going to talk about the different ways that sound work, what we can take from the past, what we can unite with the present, and then also what we can look to in the future.
Module 3, Dr. Alfred Tomatis, how active listening and passive hearing impact the profound benefits of sound work.
Oh, you're talking about my guy. He's the king. He's the king of sound. It's like he was my mentor, and he passed away in about 2000, 2001. And he was a French ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he created something called the Tomatis method. And this, when I found out about his sound therapies, it's when I knew that I could stay in the field of sound for my life, that it was actually a deep enough field for me to be able to devote myself. And the thing that I love about it the most is his concept of sound as a nutrient for the nervous system. And he talks about the listening and how it is that we listen and how we actually close down our auditory mechanism as children, as a psychological defense, if we've got a critical sister or brother or parent or teacher. And the only way that we can really deal with it is to just kind of not hear it. But the problem is that by the time that we're adults and we've learned all of these other skill sets, then we still have these ears that are not taking in a certain spectrum of sound. And so that affects everything. It affects the way that we communicate, our written skills, our spoken skills, our reading skills. In other words, how do we get along with the other 7 or 8 billion spirits on this planet? And so the work of Tomatis forms the basis, as far as I'm concerned, for all sound work.
Module 4, the nervous system unveiled, the role of sound and breath in autonomic regulation.
So I think that we've talked about this a bit. And so I think that people are pretty clear. This is where we're going to really roll into what is the difference between the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. What's the difference between the autonomic nervous system, the somatic nervous system, and all of that. And so we'll just go deeper into this. This is all for your benefit. This is all part of your toolkit.
Module 5, polyvagal power. The vagus nerve is your ally in regulating your nervous system.
So Stephen Porges is like the modern day Tomatis. And in the 90s, he came up with something called the polyvagal theory. And in that, and it really caught my attention because of I really studied how it was that it was the same as Tomatis and how it was that it was different. And what he basically has done is focus in on the importance of the vagus nerve that in the course of this hour we've spent a lot of time talking about. But he also talks about another very important psychological piece that is called safety and how important it is to the nervous system that we are in a place where we feel safe, because it's when we feel that we're in danger that we go into sympathetic overdrive and we get stuck in the fight or flight. And so his work also informs the concept of how do we have balance with the autonomic nervous system.
Module 6, tone, breath, and movement in action, how to build stress resilience.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit earlier. Stress resilience, the ability to be able to have the tools that we use to keep ourselves so that as life goes on, I mean, we can't help but be in stressful environments and situations. I mean, they're going to come up. It just is part of the deal of being on the planet. We're going to have stress, but how good are we dealing with stress? How good are we at dealing with stress? And that's what stress resilience is about. And that's what's built into these exercises. And that's the reason why I feel like they're so important.
And finally, Module 7, sonic activism, incorporating the sound breath toolkit into sound baths, drum circles, community sings, and private practice.
Well, all right. So look, I've been in this field since 1985. I'm celebrating my 40th anniversary. I don't even know what to do with that. Time goes by so fast. And what I've noticed is that there are all of these different facets in the broad world of sound work. And how do different practitioners, usually people find a way to be able to say, I work in drum circles, I work with vibroacoustics, I work with electronic vibroacoustics, I work with bowls and gongs, I work with tone, I work with singing, I work with this, I work with that. And so we find our niche. Well, I have found that my niche, one of my niches, as I continue to evolve in this field, is about sonic activism. And sonic activism is basically about questioning relevance and about being able to say, where can I use these techniques, these things that I've learned about sound and about music and about vibration? Where can I use them in our culture so that it makes a difference and that we can really step up to the healing table and be proud?
Well, what a fantastic architecture to this program. And I know there's going to be so many powerful insights and practices that people can take home with them. So I'll share a little bit more about it. Again, there's more detail on each of these modules at harmonizeyournervoussystem.com. If you choose to move forward, you're going to get all those 7 90-minute live sessions with Joshua, which will include time to ask your questions live. You also get recordings for every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts that are super helpful to go back and remember what you might have forgotten many years down the line. And there's weekly exercise for home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll also see a number of extra bonus that Joshua has graciously added to the program. There's a PDF guide called A Brief History of Sound Work. It sounds kind of self-explanatory, but anything you want to share about that bonus
Well,
today?
yeah, just the bottom line is how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been?
There's also a discount code, a second bonus, a discount code to download music from Joshua is 50% off the Sound of Calm down regulation music package. So share a little bit more. We talked more about like the humming, but maybe what specific music can down regulate you as well.
You know, the main thing is that this is all about how do we calm our nervous system. At the end of the day, whether or not it's about this part of the nervous system or that part of my leg, it doesn't matter. Really, the bottom line is that it's all one unit. And how do we calm ourselves? And so I'm a music producer and aside from being an educator, and I've produced a lot of music in the course of my life, and I've taken some of that and progressively lined it up so that using entrainment, we're actually going from 70 beats to 60 beats to 50 beats per minute in a way so that when you listen to it, it helps you to just calm down. There are also a couple of other bonuses that are going on, Stephen, as well. There's a video that I just finished up. I'm running a little bit late, but there's a video that's been finished up, and that will be included in the bonuses that are available. And the video is basically about sound work and social cohesion. And social cohesion is a really important part of sonic activism. And so for people who are looking to understand more about how to mix and match your philosophical chops and your political chops and your thinking and your professional outlay into our culture, then this is about how it is that we can gather people together and help them to feel safe and get them to work as a community. And the easiest way to do that is by singing. And then there's another music package as well. One of the music packages is for 50% off and it's for 3 hours of downloads. But there's another music package as well, and it's for free, 4 hours of music for free. And so there's all kinds of goodies in the bag. Just call
Yeah.
me Santa
Well,
Claus.
let's mention that the package you just mentioned, the 4 hours for free, is actually our special bonus today that folks get when you sign up right away by midnight tonight Pacific time. So this really is a beautiful incentive to take the time now to go to harmonizeyournervoussystem.com, read through the page, tune in with what you've heard from Joshua, and if you get the sense to move forward today, then you're going to get soothing sounds for nervous system renewal, music for down regulation. That's a full 4 hours from Joshua. So great extra reason to move forward today. So we've kept the investment very accessible for this program. It's just three payments of $128. So you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start April 21st, run Mondays at 11 Pacific to 2 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's some great testimonials from people who've studied with Joshua. He's really seasoned. He's been in this field. He's a great teacher. You're in great hands, and you will get really valuable tools for your growth and harmonization of your nervous system. So again, it's all at harmonizeyournervoussystem.com, and you get that special 4 hours of music for down regulation when you sign up by midnight tonight. So Joshua, great hour with you. Really powerful insights and really cool practices too. So thank you for your time. And anything you still want to share with folks who are considering joining you for the full course?
You know, Stephen, it's been my pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to thank you for the great services that the Shift Network brings to our planet. And if there was ever a time when we need it, we really need it now. And so, thank you, sir, for you and for your wonderful team. And I think that one of the concepts that I find to be really important is the idea of the 21st century human. And because I'm a music guy and a sound guy, then I think about how it is that we can refine the practices that we have, or what are the new practices that we need to learn, and then pass on to other people. And it's by learning and passing it on that we stand on each other's shoulders, and hopefully we can make this place a better place to live.
Hmm. Beautiful. Well, we share that intention. So Joshua, thank you for your dedication and for your wisdom. And thank you for all of you for joining today. If you want to go further into Joshua's program, you can do so at harmonizeyournervoussystem.com, and you will get the special 4 hours of music when you sign up today. And again, it's called Sound Work and Breath for Nervous System Regulation, a sound breath toolkit to restore balance, elevate your mental health and physical well-being. So thank you, Joshua, and thank you all. Many blessings.
Thank you.